The Ultimate Guide is basically the official FNAF handbook, full of all the information you need to know about the entire Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, written by Scott Cawthon after the inaccuracies of the Freddy Files. Although fans and theorists alike claim that the Ultimate Guide is still inaccurate and that no one can use anything from it as proof or evidence for anything theory related. This video will be a little different as it's going to be split into multiple sections. I'm going to read the entire book again and then point out its flaws, what it fixes from the previous Freddy Files, point out what it confirms, and ultimately come to a conclusion whether we can actually trust this book and use it for theory crafting. So let's begin. Don't forget to quickly scroll down, subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, scroll back up, and enjoy the 6th episode of Let's start with the flaws. What are the actual things wrong with this book? And no, I'm not counting spelling or grammar mistakes. To learn this, I reread the entire book, as well as looked through videos from other creators to learn of any valid mistakes that I missed. Although before we begin, I need to make 2 giant clarifications out the way before anyone starts mentioning these in the comments. 1. Anything under the title of the fan theory sections or anything that specifically says fans believe or fans have said is not counted as a mistake, because they are genuine and legitimate theories from fans that sprung from these games. For example, obviously Purple Guy isn't Phone Guy, but the theory is mentioned here simply because that was literally the most popular and agreed upon theory back in the FNAF 2 days when we did actually think that he was holding a phone in the minigames. That doesn't mean that this book is now wrong because of it. It's literally just pointing out what was the most popular fan theory at the time, and I'm sure people are hopefully able to understand when it's under the label fan theories. Scott isn't saying it's true and confirming it by having it there, and clearly starting the paragraph with "there are a few theories circulating." 2. The illustrations are not counted as mistakes either, because the illustrations are mostly always wrong, and we've known that from the illustrations within the other books too, such as the Silver Eyes trilogy, the Fazbear Frights, and this book. So it's not that just this book's illustrations are wrong, the graphic novel illustrations within this franchise in general are wrong. So with that in mind, let's go over the validly pointed out mistakes within this book, and I'll explain my thoughts on why some mistakes have been made and debunk some others which are valid but have a reasoning behind them. First, Freddy and Chica are in the wrong places on the map in FNAF 1, technically. What I mean by that is that this map shows Bonnie left, Chica middle, and Freddy right, which staring at the show stage it would look to be the case, but if you actually look closer you can tell it's actually Bonnie left, Freddy middle, and then Chica right. So I think what happened here is that whoever made this map simply looked at the show stage and put their icons in that order, going left to right. Secondly, Golden Freddy has a purple hat here, despite it being black in FNAF 1. For this, I genuinely think that this is Scott's new Ultimate Custom Night model for either Golden Freddy itself, without its shadows, or Fredbear, because this feels like it was given by Scott himself, simply because searching up Golden Freddy head has literally every single one with a black hat on, and if you try and find this image, it doesn't come up with the exact image. So it doesn't seem like they just searched it up and got it from somewhere, because I literally just can't find this exact image anywhere. In the FNAF 2 section, it claims that 11 animatronics can either kill you or crash your game, which would be the Toys, Withers, Mangle, Puppet, Balloon Boy, and Golden Freddy. And then it goes on to mention 4 others, only there to fill your nightmares, as in not kill you, which would supposedly be JJ, Endo 2, Shadow Freddy, and Shadow Bonnie. But as we know, Shadow Bonnie is the one who crashes your game, so the book separating the characteristic from them is wrong. But as I'm writing this, I've realized that this actually isn't a mistake, because it's removing Balloon Boy from the 11 as he never actually kills you and puts Shadow Bonnie as the 11 instead. Next, in the Night End minigame section in FNAF 2, it constantly mentions how the game will crash after these cutscenes happen, which isn't true. But it also mentions how directly after this, a code will appear either being or it's me, showing how the game itself doesn't crash. So I think this is simply just mentioning how this is the crash, because it also mentions this for the other minigames that end the same way. As for the others mentioned, I'm not sure what the reasoning behind this one is. On the FNAF 3 intro page, it says that the game takes place 30 years after the events we're not sure of, but we know from the game's actual description that it's the FNAF 1 location closing, but the book seems to know that too a couple pages later. Next, it mentions how sister location takes place within Circus Baby's Pizza World instead of Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals, which we know as a fact. But to be fair, we know that the 30 years later thing came due to the game's description of FNAF 3. And in the game description of Sister Location, it welcomes you to Circus Baby's Pizza World, and that they are hiring a technician. So that's where I think the mistake was made. Now, all of these ones here, I really don't know what happened, but I'll tell you the mistakes anyway, which starts with the name Springtrap being used instead of it actually being Spring Bonnie in Stage 1 and in Fruity Maze. It also claims that Susie's story is further explored in Coming Home, despite that being Fazbear Frights' Susie and not Game Susie, which the rest of the paragraph was already talking about. The book states that this resembles Hercules Hospital, even though the poster actually says One Night at the Opera. Next, Ultimate Custom Night Scraptrap is noted as going through the top then, even though it's actually Springtrap. But then Scraptrap also appears in the correct position on the next page. On this same page though, there's another mistake. The puppet appears in the kitchen with Chica and not the prize corner. Next, Plush Trap apparently disappears when you click him, which is wrong as it will go away no matter what you click. Next, it mentions how the scooper is an extractor, but it's actually an injector, which we learn through the Pizzeria Simulator blueprints. It mentions how Ella was later mass produced, as in following the trilogy events, even though they're entirely separate. The last 5 mistakes are simply just the animatronic inventory section, either using the wrong picture or the appearances are wrong or just missing some, such as how Jacko Bonnie is not in Ultimate Custom Night, the picture for JJ's Balloon Boy, Nightmare Young is not in FNAF AR, the Withers are not listed to be in Curse of Dreadbear, and Eleanor is not listed to be in To Be Beautiful, its main story. So after some mistake hunting, we have 14 mistakes, which, removing animatronic appearances being wrong or missing, leaves us with a separate 10 actual mistakes within this 292 page book. Now, I quickly want to mention the fixes from the previous books, which is that it removed Michael from being Springtrap, FNAF 4 being in 1987, and Michael being the crying child, all removed due to people using its inclusion in the books, yes, even under the theory section, as evidence for some reason that it must be true, and making sure that they are completely debunked. Scott also made sure that Lefty being a device to capture children, and Elizabeth only possibly being William's daughter, were both removed too, as we know the 100% truth about both. So, is it trustable? Yes it is. Unlike the other Freddy Files books, Scott is confirmed to be directly and way more involved with this book, giving information on upcoming books as well. Scott was annoyed with the mistakes and or some of the inclusions within the other books, so why would he allow this to happen a third time? The current mistakes, like for example 30 years after events unknown, are simply things that he and us skimmed past and kept reading, unless you're intentionally trying to find mistakes. You wouldn't have realized it doesn't specifically say 30 years after Freddy's closing. There are a lot of times within this book where it specifically says fans should go look here to solve this, and this specifically tells us this, which were left in by Scott to help us. And also, these are some of the things that are confirmed within this book. The only reason Molten Freddy having the missing children's remnant is even a thing is because the Ultimate Guide specifically says it is a thing. So if people take that as fact now, no one can suddenly turn around and tell you that the books have no legitimacy when it comes to a theory that they just don't like. Because as we've seen, it is legit and is trustable.